Alright guys, welcome back to today's video. Today we're going to do a very interesting video, at least to me I think, because we just acquired a brand new car. Now the car in question is actually right over here, and that is the Proton eMas 7 PHEV. Now in today's video, it's going to be sort of a first impressions kind of video. I'm not a car reviewer, not a professional reviewer, definitely. So I'm just going to be sharing with you a couple of top of mind thoughts about the car itself that I have, and hopefully it can help you out in a way or another. Also, I should also highlight that we are shooting beside this street here. I can't really find a nice spot where we can actually park the car and talk about the car, so I'm right beside the street, which might be a bit noisy, so please bear with me. But without further ado, let's talk about this guy. Now first up, I just want to share my thoughts on the design of the car itself. Now I think a lot of you have already seen the car, so there's not much to say, but me personally, I really like how handsome the car looks. I mean, I'm not going to compare it to any other brand for that matter, but just look at how the black goes, guys. So I actually went with this entire blacked out look. I've covered the plate, by the way. Not very professional looking, and I actually removed all the logos just to debadge it because I want it to have a clean look. If you come closer, you might notice some sparkle in the paint itself, so I think again, pretty nice job with the paint from Proton or Geely or whatever. Okay, so moving over to the inside, I think this is where it's the most comfortable. Like guys, this place is a very nice place to be in. So obviously it's super spacious. One thing I noticed is that sometimes the screen itself takes some time to boot up, so that might be, you know, a bit annoying sometimes, but not a huge deal breaker. It's super comfortable in here. Everything is sort of like soft touch all around, except this part, of course, the middle section. But you do have very nice materials going on all around. It's also super spacious, very wide. You know, as someone who comes from a sedan, this is definitely very spacious. Also, this cup holder area, even though it might look quite small, but it actually fits a spritzer bottle very nicely, and also my coffee cup. So, you know, looks small, but it actually works very well. Moving down to this part here, this is where you actually put your phone. What I noticed is that the wireless charging is extremely slow. And not only that, it really heats up the phone. So I think, personally, I won't really use this wireless charger. Haven't got myself a cable to put down there so I can charge my phone. But this wireless charging pad is just like burning, and it's like so hot on the phone. And the juice seems to be dropping actually while using it, so it's not really increasing even though I have my Android Auto going on. Let's talk a bit about the infotainment system. So this screen here is actually quite nice. I would say very large. It still feels very accessible, even though my seat is quite a bit back, so I can still reach for stuff over here and there. What I like is that we have these really nice cameras, which I found to be pretty accurate. Come on, let's go. There, you see. Sometimes we have these kind of software bugs here and there. So very clear, high-res cameras all around. I love it. It's actually, like I said, very accurate, so you can actually see like the space that you're parked in, and you can actually really use the cameras to park, although I would say still look at your mirrors. Other than that, it comes with that CarPlay as well as Android Auto, which I think is also quite standard. Everything is wireless, so I've got my Android Auto going on here. And if you just take a look at something here, which is quite annoying actually, is whenever you signal, this little frame pops up. But when it pops up, my entire map is gone. So let me show it to you again. See, when it's the signal is off, my maps is back. But when I signal again, the entire map goes away. So it's these kind of small bugs which can be a bit annoying sometimes. But again, I say not a deal breaker. Other than that, we've got pretty good visibility for this instrument cluster over here. But again, another very quick bug here is that this display does not come with that ambient light detection. So for instance, this big one here in the center can actually detect your entire environment. So if it's dark, the screen will go dimmer. If it's in a very bright environment, the screen will get brighter. It's just like your phone's auto brightness. But this guy in the middle does not have that. So sometimes in the car park at night, let's say in a very dark environment, this will be extremely bright and you'll be like, oh, blinding to your eyes. So what I did was actually put on this dark mode permanently so that it's you know, easier on the eyes. Even though I'm in the basement, sometimes with very dark situations, this display still would not be like glaring at my eyes. It's also worth pointing out that the gear, whichever gear you're in, is actually very tiny at the bottom here. And sometimes if you're steering, it's like blocking it, like you can't see it. So again, quick example, let's say you are turning the car and all that. You know, sometimes I still have not got used to like push up to reverse, push down to actually go forward. So I still actually rely on looking at that little tiny icon down there, which is very hard to see because, you know, it's very tiny. But I think it's still, again, not a deal breaker, just some small stuff that you should take note of. In terms of the sound system, guys, the sound system is excellent. I mean, this is actually a very, very good system. And when you just play music, the entire sound just feels so good. That's one thing that I really love about this car, and that's because the sound. You know, whenever you're just driving and you just want enjoy some good music, this is where the Fly Me sound speakers actually does it very good justice. Okay, so let me just move to the back seat so I can show you all a little bit more of what's happening at the back. So let's go. Okay, coming to the back seat, still quite a fair bit of space. Now, for me, usually I drive with the seat pushed back quite a lot, so space is definitely going to be sacrificed, but you still have decent seat at the back here. Very good support, because if you look at my thighs itself, like the seat goes all the way to fully cover your thighs, so you have a lot of support for your thighs, and it's actually great to sit on. There's actually some pretty good angle as well for the rear. And you have this nice armrest which you can also put in your bottle or whatever. So it's actually a very comfortable space to sit at the back. Very laid back. I would say the keyword here is all about being very laid back. And if you push this open, let's go. Let's open that roof. Things can get very airy in here. Now, I know not a lot of people actually like the sunroof. Personally, I'm a huge fan of it because I always like natural light coming in. So, you know, obviously if it's too hot, I will actually close it up, maybe close half or something like that. But it just makes the entire space super airy, guys. Very, very comfortable. Like if you're going to be fetching people like your parents or your kids or whatnot, around, and they are going to be spending a lot of time at the back, oh, they will really enjoy this space here. I'm really feeling like I want to take a nap here. So obviously 175 cm, lots and lots of headroom. In terms of the legroom, I just showed you that. But guys, this is a very comfortable space to be in. All right, let's move on and go back to the front because I got a couple more things to show you. Okay, so obviously it's very sunny right now. But one thing I noticed about the ambient light here is that the ambient light itself is very dim. Like even at maximum brightness, you can barely see it. So during the day, I would say that even though it's on, like take a look at that. Even though it's on during the day, it's barely visible. And at night, it's also like very, very, what's the word for it? Minute? Barely there, I would say. So if you are looking for like a rare, very fancy kind of cabin, like you expect all those lights to go on here and there, so that doesn't get very bright. Just a heads up for y'all guys. It's going to be quite dark in here actually at night. In terms of the air conditioning, yep, I think that's also very important because we have very hot temperatures here in Malaysia. So the aircon system is actually fine, I would say. If you are used to Proton being like super cold and all that, you're not going to find that here. So the air conditioning, I think, is just okay. Like the power is good enough. The temperature levels, I feel, could be a bit cooler. So the lowest is actually 15.5. See, that's the lowest you can get around here. But it's definitely not our own Proton level kind of cold. Just to give you a heads up as well, you do have your seat ventilation, which is also very useful for both passengers. So that's nice. You actually have to tap in here for your aircon. But if you just quickly map it to your button, you can also tap here and adjust the fan speed, which I think is very nice. So that's useful. When you're driving, you just want to change the power of the fan speed, you can do that very easily. Other than that, just in terms of cabin space, yeah, I know I'm moving all over the place. Like I said, not a professional reviewer. You do have a pretty decent space in here, which is nice. It's not like those EVs where you have to, use the screen to open the glove box. You can just press this button over here, get it open. You also have this area here, which is quite nice, quite deep. And some more storage down here, which I have put this mat, so it's sort of like anti-slip. And of course, very big cubby holes all around. Now finally, let's go and check out the boot. Let me open that from here. Alright, so this is the kind of boot space that we're looking at. The main goal for this car is actually to put in multiple huge luggages, like 26 inches, because we travel a lot. So that's the reason why we got this car actually. And it certainly looked like it could hold all that. Even you have some space down below here as well. Let's pop that up, down there. Quite deep, I would say. So a lot of storage here. You can go and check out those pro reviewers to see like how the space really is, but this is just my real world use. Haven't really arranged everything nicely, so it's a huge mess, but yeah, a lot of space down here. And just in terms of the mats and all that, I actually got the ones from Kamato because I've used that before, so I found it quite good. And they look something like this. Very neat actually. You see that? So the original ones actually comes with these pins where you can actually lock it in place, which I think is nice. But these Kamato ones, it sits over. You don't really bump your feet against here, so I think it's not a big deal, but very, very useful because when you come in with dirty feet, you don't have to worry about dirtying your car. Alright, so just some first thoughts on the drive itself. Again, not the full review, only done like I think slightly more than 100 kilometers. But first impressions on the drive is it's extremely smooth. The power for overtaking is also quite sufficient, and when I mean that kind of power for overtaking, I mean overtaking at like 70-80 km/h and above. So if you are typically driving on a highway and you really want to overtake someone, generally you need to really floor the pedal a little bit. So I like that, even though it's a very big vehicle, but overtaking is actually done quite easily. Number 3, in terms of the maneuverability, so I noticed that again, even though the car is fairly large vehicle, but when you want to do tight turns, U-turns and all that, the steering is actually very easy to turn around, and the radius itself is actually very acceptable, so good enough for U-turns and all that. In terms of comfort levels, for instance, just in terms of how the suspension feels when you cross over the bumps, I think it actually absorbs it quite well. So it's not like the most comfortable car out there, but it definitely absorbs it quite a fair bit. So in terms of comparing it to something like the Leap Moto, which I actually had a chance to drive recently, so that is actually extremely soft, I would say. When you just go over the bumps, you can just go without braking. Please still brake for that matter. The eMas 7 PHEV is slightly stiffer than the Leap Moto B10. But if you compare it to something like a Continental car, of course those are very keras. So in this sense, I think it's actually very good enough for day to day. Like I said, my parents was sitting at the back with my sister, and when we go over the bumps and all that, they still felt it was a very comfortable drive. Again, this is just a very early drive. If you guys have any tips on how I can actually do better in my drive, or stuff that you really want me to test out, again, please feel free to leave a comment down below. But so far, everything has been very smooth, very comfortable experience, very silent kind of drive, and I think it's just a very comfortable car to be in. Alright, so that's it for the first impressions of the Proton eMas 7 PHEV. Sorry, let me get that flat again. Yeah, overall, extremely happy with this car. And again, I'm not a reviewer of a car, so just take this info as like FYI, personal kind of thoughts from an average user. Final look at the car again. Woo! Look at that. So handsome, guys. Super handsome. By the way, once you debadge the rear, right, it really looks amazing, guys. Let me just show you a couple of B-rolls from here. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.